in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to create a message box, just like this one here. This is going to be the basic one, and then we're going to go over how to create one like this that's going to show a little bit more information, other buttons, and also different icons. So let's get started. If you haven't already, open up your MetaTrader platform and then click up here on the editor button. Okay, or you can hit F4. Okay, this is where we're going to be writing our message box. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to create a simple script and we're going to call it MessageBox. So click on New, Script, Next, and we're going to call this MessageBox. Okay, finish. We're going to be opened up with a new script here, and this is where we're going to be writing the code to go over learning how to do a message box. So just want to type in here within the start on start function, message box. Okay, and you can see that it is showing up as purple. Now, what we're going to do and go over first is going to be the help file. So let's just highlight message box and press F1. Okay, now this is going to pull up the reference for message box. So we're creating a object, and what this message box function does is takes in three parameters: the text here, which is going to be what is displayed within the message box. It's also going to be taking in another string that they named caption, and this is going to be the title or the box header as they have it here. And then there's going to be some integers that are the flags. So when we go into the flags here, if you go down into the third one where it says flags equals 0, and this is optional, let's click on flags. Okay, now you can see there's three groups here, the main flags of the message box. You can see we've got MBOK, and then these are all the buttons. So this group here of flags is going to be your buttons that's going to be displayed. And then down below here in the second group are going to be the icons. And you can see it's MB, which is message box _ icon. And these are the ones that are grouped. So your icon, stop, error, and hand all show the stop sign icon. Okay, your question is the only one that will show the question mark or the question icon. And then your exclamation and warning both show the exclamation warning sign icon. Okay, so we'll be going over these. The asterisk and the information both show the same icon as well. So we will go over this. And then our next group is going to be the defining which button is highlighted. So if we highlight button 1, which is by default, if you've got more than one button, say OK and cancel, then the OK button will be highlighted. If you wanted to highlight the cancel button so that if the user presses the enter button, then cancel will be hit by default, you're going to use the define button too. Okay, and we'll go over this a little bit better, but I wanted to show you this so that if you ever need to reference it, you can come back here and go through what you need to for these. When you hit the ID OK and the ID cancel, these are returning a value. So if you notice where it says integer message box, when we create the message box, we're going to store it in a variable, which is going to be an integer. Okay. And let's just create one right here. Let's call it the return value equals. Okay, so we're going to be returning, when we create this and the user presses on one of those buttons, we're going to be returning a value, and that value is going to be one of these values from 1 to 11. And this way the computer knows which button has been, or the program knows which button has been pressed, and you can do the appropriate things. And we'll set up an if statement for which button is pressed here coming up. Okay, so we're just going to write a basic message box that's going to welcome the user to the program. Okay, so let's start off with typing in MessageBox. And all we're going to be putting in is the message. So we're going to wrap this, it's a string, we're going to put it in double quotes. And we're just going to say, welcome to our program. Okay, and then we're going to put in an end bracket, close off using a semicolon, and let's just compile this. So remember on the help file, these two, the title is optional and our flags are optional. So we're not using those. We're just basically just putting in a very basic message to the user in this message box. Let's compile it and see what happens. You can hit F4, take us over to the chart, and we're going to use our script. If you don't have this opened up top here, you can see this little file icon or the navigator, or hit Control N, open it up, go to your scripts and expand it if it's not already expanded, and then go to your message box, and then we're just going to drag and drop. So that's why we're putting this, using this in a script. Whenever you drag and drop a script onto the chart, it will run the code within the onStart function right away. It won't wait for any ticks or inputs, okay? So you can see it's given us a title already, message box, and it provides the symbol and the chart that it's put on. Welcome to our program. So very basic. Okay, so let's go back and change our title. So the next parameter that it's asking for is the caption. So this is going to be the title. So this is of the data type string. So we're going to wrap this in double quotes. And let's just type in welcome. Okay, let's go up here, compile it, and press F4, run it. And now you can see that we got rid of the default title, and it's just a basic welcome title, welcome to our program. And okay, so that's it for creating a very basic message box. We're not storing anything into a variable to use. It's just a quick little intro. Maybe you've got some information that you want to store, letting the user know about some specific inputs. You can use just a basic message box like this. Okay, so let's get into going over what the flags are and how to use the multiple flags within the message box. Okay, so now that we know how to write a very simple basic message box, let's write one that uses one of the flags. So again, let's write, double click, highlight the message box, hit F1, take us over to where we can use these flags and what we're given. So this is the first group that we're going to work with. And we're going to do, by default, you can see that it's the OK button that's added, and it was automatically added. We didn't even define to put this button on our message box. It was just automatically added. Okay, so we're going to go through using the yes, no, and also the yes, no, cancel. Okay, so let's go back to our program here, and we're going to create a different one. Let's call it message box. And let's write in here, we got to wrap this in double quotes, and we're going to go buy signal, or better yet, let's just do a trade signal. Do you want to take the trade? Okay, and let's put this on a new line. Okay, so there's our message to the user. We're going to put the title in here and we're going to call it alert. And we have to wrap it in our double quotes. And now this is going to be our first flag. So if we type in capital MB underscore, we're going to be given all of these MBs here that we want. Let's put in capital Y. Now we're on the two that we want here. We're going to go over yes, no, and yes, no, cancel. So our first one is going to be yes, no. Okay. And then we're going to close that off with our closing bracket and our semicolon. Okay. Now let's run this, compile it, hop over to the charts here and drag it on and see what we get. So there's our basic welcome message. Hit OK. Now we've been given an alert. The trade signal. Do you want to take the trade? You can see that we put this do you want to take the trade on a new line. Okay. And we're given the two buttons yes and no. And then by default our first button is highlighted here. So okay, we'll hit yes. And let's go back here and add in the yes, no, cancel. Okay, we're just going to highlight this. Let's go copy, paste it. And instead of having the trade signal here, let's cut that, Control X, put a capital D, and we'll make this one a bit different. And instead of alert, we're going to put it as a trade signal. Now instead of the yes, no, we're going to go capital Y, and let's use the yes, no, cancel. Okay, now let's compile this and go through our message box. Just drag and drop, and there's our first welcome message. Okay, trade signal alert. Do you want to take the trade? No. Okay, trade signal. We've changed to the next one. Now we have three buttons here. Do you want to take the trade? Cancel. And there we have it. So there's the little bit more advanced using our first group of flags. So I welcome you, pause the video, go over into the section here where the flags are listed and test out some of these other ones, the abort, retry, ignore, maybe the retry, cancel, cancel, try, continue. Okay, test out some of those, write your own message boxes, and then unpause it, and we will go over how to put in the next group of flags. Okay, so probably the most important part of this video is showing you how to add the additional flag groups. So like you can remember seeing here, we take in 3 parameters within the MessageBox function and it returns an integer. So we have our 3 parameters in here and we want to add an icon to our MessageBox because right now we're just showing the buttons and our message with the title. We want to now add an icon. So how do we do this? Let's close out of here and let's go to our first or our second message box here where we have our first flag, and we're going to add in another flag. So you would think that we would be just putting a comma in here and adding in our next group, which is going to be the icon because we want to show an icon. Let's show the question mark. Because we're asking the trader if they want to take the trade. So we're doing a semi-automated EA right now. Okay, so we're going to ask the trader if they want to take this trade. And if they do, then we can submit it and enter the trade. Okay, so you would think you would use a comma and we should now get the icon. Okay, so let's try and compile this. And now we get an error. MessageBox wrong parameter count. Because this function is expecting 3 parameters or arguments, and we've passed through 4. So now how do we fix this so that we can show an icon? Because we know that the message box can show an icon in here. So let's go back here. And this is where I'm not too sure why they wouldn't have written here. I don't see it anywhere. Even down here it says to display an icon in the message window, it's necessary to specify additional flags. I don't see anywhere where it actually tells you how to specify the additional flags. And same down here. This value can be a combination of the following flag groups. Now I don't see anything where it tells you how to put them in. So that's why I think this part is actually a pretty important part of this video. So what we're going to do is simply get rid of that comma and put in a pike. And now we're going to go in here and try and compile, and you can see we have no more error. So this seems to have worked. Let's just see if the icon question mark has been put into our program. Hit F4 and let's try running it now. We have our basic bare bones message box. Welcome to the program. Hit OK, and now we get our question mark icon. Trade signal, do you want to take the trade? No. Okay, and now we still have no secondary flag here that's going to show the icon. Do you want to take the trade? No. Okay, so let's go back there and let's go through here what other ones we can add. If you can't remember what's in the icon list, what you can do here is put in the pike, type in MB underscore with a capital I there, and there we have the list of what we can put in here. Okay, so for this one, we are going to put in, let's go with the stop sign or the stop icon, and let's compile this. Head back over to the chart and run it. Hit no, and there's the stop. All right, so that's it for adding in our secondary group. If you don't want to do it this way, type this in to see what icons is. Remember, you can double click on MessageBox, hit F1, and then go over to MessageBox or flags and come down to our secondary. Now you're going to see these are grouped. The stop, the arrow, and the hand all give you the stop icon. Question mark gives you the question icon. Exclamation and warning will give you this one here. So let's go over this one and test out the exclamation and warning. And then also, like it says here, or sorry, let's go over the information and asterisks. I've already got it defined here in our program. You can see show the information icon, show the asterisk icon, and you can see that the icon information and asterisk. So let's just go and see what this will pop up. We're going to comment out this code and uncomment this code. Let's compile it and go back over to the charts here. And there you can see it's showing the information icon, and we're showing the asterisk icon. Same thing. Okay. That is it for showing the secondary flags. Let's get into the third flags. Okay, so we're going to uncomment our 3 original message box, and we're going to now that we know how to add in the next flags, we're going to look at our third group. So let's add in our pike and hop over to our info page. Go to the flags, and we're going to come down to defining which button is highlighted. So it says by default the button 1 is highlighted. Okay, so on the ones that we have more than one button, we're going to define them. So our second message box, we're going to define button 2, and then we're going to define button 3 for the third message box. Okay, so we can type in MB underscore, and for defining, we're going to put a capital D, and we can see that we have a yes or no button in this message box. So we're asking if the user wants to take this trade. So maybe it's not the best idea to have yes highlighted by default, so that if the user does accidentally hit the enter button, they're going to take the trade. Okay, so let's set up the no button to be set up by default, which is going to be button 2. And this is what we're going to use. Now when we head down to our third message box, it's going to be given 3 buttons, so yes, no, and cancel. And what we're going to do is highlight the cancel, so that if they accidentally hit the enter button, or they just want to fast tap the enter, it's going to cancel the message box right away. Okay, so type in MB underscore D, and we're going to go to button 3. Okay, now we're going to go up here to compile, and let's hop over to our chart and run our script. Now you can see on our second message box that yes is grayed out here and no is highlighted. Okay, so if we hit the enter button, now our next message box comes up and you can see that the third button is highlighted. Okay, and to show this a little bit more, let's close this out, go back to our scripts here, and let's comment out these 2. Let's take this, copy it, and paste it in a couple times. And what we're going to do is we are going to define button 1, define button 2, and define button 3. So let's compile this. Go back to our charts and let's run our script. Now you can see yes is highlighted, no is highlighted, and cancel is highlighted. So that is showing the defining the buttons, which one's going to be highlighted, and by default which one the enter button will work with. Okay, so staying with our message box that shows the yes, no, and cancel buttons, we're going to work with this. And then right now we can't do anything. The user can press on any one of these buttons and nothing really is going to happen. But we need to store our message box into a integer variable. So all we're going to do is create a variable. Let's call it users choice. Okay, and that's going to be equal to our message box. So whatever button they click on is going to store that number into the user's choice. Now we have to declare this as an integer. Okay, so now that we have our value stored, so we know which button has been pressed, we can do something with that. But what we're going to do is just do a simple print. And we're going to have a look at the values. So user chose, and we're going to add in our user's choice. We can use the plus sign, or you can just use a comma. Okay, and now we have to do a semicolon. And let's add in our variable to these other instances of the message box. Okay, and let's print out all of them so that we can see the different values, because we do know that we've defined the buttons, so we'll just click them as they're defined. It's going to be yes, we're going to press yes, no, and cancel, and it's going to give us all different variables. So let's compile this, and let's hop over to the chart and run our script. Okay, let's clear. If you want to see what the print function does and where it's writing to, you're going to want to open up your terminal, which is Control T, or up in the ribbon here, click on terminal. And then down below, instead of trade, where it's on usually by default, you're going to click the experts tab. Okay, now if you want, you can right click and hit clear, which is what I've done. We've gotten a clear space here. That way it will be easy to see the numbers as they're coming along. So we can see here that yes is highlighted. This is our first box. Let's click yes. And the user chose 6. Let's press no. User chose 7. And then let's hit cancel. And the user chose 2. So let's go back over to our script here and double click, hit F1. We can hop over to our flags and we can see that cancel is yes 2, yes is 6, and no is 7. So that's working out really good. Now we're going to actually do something. We'll write an if statement and show what happens. Maybe if they click yes, they're going to move on to the next message box. If they click no, then they'll exit everything. Or no will take us over to the cancel. We'll see. Let's just have a look at what we're going to do here. Okay, so we've deleted the print functions here. Now we just have our 3 message boxes. And what we're going to do, I'm not going to do if-else statements underneath these. We're just going to create a function, and it's just going to print whatever button they chose. So let's just put in, this function is going to be void, and we're just going to call it print user's choice. Okay. It is, let's just create the function first here and then get into the parameters. So we're going to pass through the value. It's going to be an integer, and it's going to be MessageBox value. Okay, so now in here we can put in our if-else statements. So we know that our message box has the 3 buttons. It's yes, no, and cancel. So if, and we'll put in an else if, and then we'll end with the else. Okay, so our first condition is going to be if our MB value value equals. Now with this, we can put in the actual value of it, or probably the better way of doing it so you know what you're working with, instead of putting, let's go over to our values here. Instead of putting 1 for OK or 2 for cancel, we're working with yes, no, and cancel. So let's start with yes first, and we're going to use the ID yes. So we could put the value 6, or we can use the ID yes. So for reading's sake, and if you came back to this code later on, probably better to be putting the ID yes instead of the value 6. Okay, because that easy, when you read this, you understand, okay, well, yeah, the message box value is equal to yes. This is what we want to do. We're going to maybe alert and type in you took the trade. Okay, and then we're going to close that off. And now for our next condition is we're going to do the same thing. Value equals ID no. Okay, then we're going to copy and paste this here. And I'm just hitting Control comma, and it will tidy it up. You can see that this alert should be over here. So I'm just going to show you here. This is a hotkey for cleaning up the code. And there we go. We've just cleaned it all up here. Okay. And then else we're going to alert we don't want to say you took the trade. Let's say you skipped this trade. Else we've hit the cancel button, and it's going to be you canceled everything. Okay, there we go. Now let's compile this, make sure our function doesn't have any errors, and all we're going to do is call the function up through here. And because obviously you wouldn't be setting up message boxes like this, you'd be setting it up the one time and then calling whatever function you want to do with it. So for simplicity's sakes, I'm going to show you when we hit yes, we're going to call this function. When we hit no, we're going to call this function, and then when we hit the cancel, we're going to call this function. So let's, in order to call the function, and we're going to pass through our user's choice, which is our stored variable. Okay, and then close it off with a semicolon. Now let's just take this, copy, and paste. There we go. So we have our function being called. So we're creating the message box. We're storing whatever they choose in the user's choice variable, and we're passing that variable through to this function here, which is just going to set up an alert telling us whether we took the trade, skipped the trade, or canceled everything. Okay, so let's compile this. Everything's running. We got no errors. And let's hop over to the chart and run our script. Okay, yes. There's our first alert. You took the trade. Do you want to take the trade? You can see that we're on the second one. No's highlighted. Let's hit no. Okay, we skipped the trade. And now we're going to cancel it. You canceled everything. So everything's working pretty good. That's just showing you how to use the stored variable and using and creating the message box. I hope you guys liked this tutorial, and comment down below if you want anything specific gone over and shown, and I'll create a video for it. We will talk to you guys in the next one.